Good morning. Today is Friday, March the 19th, and we continue with our daily Lenten devotion as we continue to read Bright Evening Star by Madeleine. Perhaps it was Jesus' sense of the preciousness of all life, of the infinite value of a sparrow or a child or an old woman, that made people follow him wherever he went, up a mountain, listening to his stories, calling for help, trying to find the magnificent life that was like a light around Jesus. And Jesus, giving them light and life, needed to get away from the crowds and be alone with the Father. It is important for all of us. When I was at the cottage, it is easy. I just step outside towards the west and the mountains. Sometimes finding our wilderness is difficult, but it is always possible. In the city, I have discovered that a subway, at a time when one doesn't have to strap hang, but can have a seat, is a good place to tune out and be quiet. The word burnout had not been heard in Jesus' day, but he avoided it by going off alone. As John Greenleaf Whittier expressed, he went away to the calm of the hills, where Jesus knelt to share with thee the silence of eternity, interpreted by love. God's work is done better if periodically we leave all that we think we have to do and go off quietly to be with the Maker, so that we can be refilled with the energy needed for the work of love. One of my problems, and I suspect it is for many others, is doing too much without giving myself enough time to be with God. Time to be with God is essential in order that our work may indeed be God's work, not ours. Sometimes I think of myself as a very small car turning into a gas station to be filled with faith. One time when Jesus was exhausted, because healing takes great energy, he got on one of the fishing boats and lay down in the stern. He was asleep when a heavy storm came up, and his disciples woke him in terror, telling him that they were going to drown, and there he was sleeping. Didn't he even care? He quieted the battering of the winds and the wildness of the sea. And the implication was that if we only had faith, we too could work in collaboration with the natural world that God had given us. But most of the time we do not honor God's creation, and so we separate ourselves from it, from all that God has made, and that is a terrible loss. Why is it that some Christians are separating themselves from nature, seeing nature as a lesser aspect of creativity, rather than following Jesus' example? One example that has been given to me is that some fundamentalist Christians believe that God has given us exactly enough of the earth's bounty to last until the second coming. And since the second coming is imminent, it's all right to use everything up: air, oil, forests, land, because after the second coming, we won't need them. There's a strange selfishness in this. Where did the idea come from anyway? I do not believe that it is scriptural, and the smug greed in it frightens me. Should we not tenderly tend the land, and perhaps especially so if the second coming is near? After the healing of the sea, Jesus healed a man of horrible demons, and sent the demons into a herd of pigs which rushed into the sea and drowned, to the horror of those who tended the swine for the owner, and the joy of the man who'd been released. And yet again the demons were the ones who immediately recognized Jesus as the one who was to come. He returned to Capernaum, and a paralytic was brought to him. The crowd was so great that the paralytic's friends took tiles from the roof and let down the paralyzed man that way. Wonderful, loving, innovative friends. They were not going to be deterred in their desire to have their friend cured. But then Jesus shocked everyone by saying, "My son, your sins are forgiven." But was it so strange? Centuries earlier, when people came to Epidurus in Greece for healing, they had to stay in rooms outside the gates before they were allowed into the holy precincts where the priests or physicians were. They had to wait until their spirits were made clean enough that they were fit to be healed. Is that so very different? Jesus asked, "Which do you say is easier to say? Your sins are forgiven, or take up your bed and walk? But that you may know that the Son of Man has the authority on earth to forgive sins. Come, rise, take up your bed, and go on home." We tend to be most impressed with Jesus' telling the man to get up and walk, but our physical health avails us little if we are bent and burdened by sin. I think of the man at the pool in Bethesda, where there were 5 porches in which lay many people who were ill or lame, and who were waiting for the angel who at certain seasons troubled the water. Whoever was first into the pool was made whole of whatever disease was causing pain and anxiety. There was one man who'd been there for 38 years. Jesus asked him, "Do you want to be made whole?" Do we want to be healed? Of our diseases, our anger, our resentment, our hurt feelings? Before we can be healed, we have to let go of whatever it is that's holding us back. Sometimes we are unaware that we are holding on to something. A disease which may make us feel important, an anger that we have been unfairly treated, a guilt that keeps nagging at us. The man replied to Jesus, "There is nobody to put me into the pool when the water is troubled, and while I am trying to get there, someone else is always ahead of me." Jesus said, "Get up, take your bed, and walk." And immediately the man was cured and got up and walked. Once again, this happened on the Sabbath. The man was asked who had cured him, but Jesus had immediately slipped away into the crowd, and the man could not answer. Later, Jesus saw him in the temple and warned him, "You are cured of your affliction, but make sure that you do not fall into sin again, or something worse might happen to you." Had the man not entirely let go of whatever was holding him back? Doctors today are learning that a healed spirit may make the difference between life and death. There may be 2 cases of equal severity, but one patient will recover and the other will die. Our immune systems are great mysteries. No matter how many vitamins we take to reinforce them, no matter how many psychiatrists we consult, I believe that laughter is good for the immune system, but so indeed may be tears. If we do not grieve for loss and pain at the appropriate time, our immune systems are going to feel the lack. But not everybody who gets the flu during an epidemic has a depressed immune system. My husband's illness came during one of the happiest times of our marriage, when we were giving readings together, which were so successful we had more invitations than we could possibly accept. Our comfortableness with each other was deep and warm. We were happy. And then out of the blue, cancer struck and killed. Hugh was surrounded by prayer. He was only 70. That seems young to me. I don't need to understand miracles now in the midst of my human life. I have to believe that what happens to us will be used in God's plan for the universe. We are again tangled in the contradictions of human free will and God's will. But ultimately God's will indeed will be done. After Jesus had healed the man by the pool, the religious leaders were angry because Jesus had once again broken the law by healing on the Sabbath day. Believing that law is more important than love can be a great hindrance in our ability to accept healing whenever Jesus offers it. Why were the religious authorities more concerned about Jesus breaking the law than they were at the wonder of his healing? Don't they want people to be healed? We do need to cleanse our spirits before we could be made well, but sometimes we carry that idea too far. It was common in Jesus' day, and still is now, to think that if someone has a physical ailment, that it's that person's fault. The sick person gets blamed without compassion because some inner evil has caused the problem. Some people proclaim that you do not get cancer unless you are angry. Or conversely, some Christians see pain and illness as God's punishment for their sin. And if we are being justly punished, is it proper for someone to heal us? Jesus did not think in terms of punishment, but love. Healing is a great mystery. I know of one family of faith who prayed that their 2-year-old would be healed of leukemia. They believed that their prayers would be answered as they desired. But the child died. Why does this child die and one live? We do not know. But prayer is never wasted. If the religious leaders were offended by Jesus, there were others who wanted to make him a king. And when Jesus saw that they were coming for him, he went away to a mountain to be alone. Alone. He wanted to forgive, to love, to heal, but he had come to earth as a servant, not a king. Satan would have liked to tempt him with the kingship, but that was not the calling of the incarnate one. He wanted his healing to be quiet, but people shouted it out. He told the people that he was the bread of life, but he was not understood. No, he did not want to be king. Jesus, the bright evening star, bringing with him, wherever he went, hope and joy and the promise of God's love. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Please feel free to join us at our Children's Focus tomorrow morning at 10:30 or our Sunday worship on Sunday, of course, at 10 a.m. I hope your day is full of blessings. So take care, stay well, and God bless.